How do you know if the mic's working?
It just does.
Okay.
It's one of those mics that just...
Because, like, there's not a light on or anything.
Yeah, I saw a lot of great things. I prepared myself that no one would come because there were so many great things about it. I'll come every time.
Are you going to be over there? Mostly?
See, that's the thing, is it's over here. You want me to stand over there?
Well, because, like, if I get the full screen, then I can't get the podium as well.
You can still see it? Yeah, it's not for anything. And I'm just going to do like a regular recording too. In case this one fails. You know?
Is this supposed to have like a light or something?
What? No. It will when it starts, I think.
I turned it on.
What, it's on?
Yeah.
Oh, hello everyone.
I don't think anyone's on there yet.
Okay, that's fine. You're the best, Caitlin. So that's not gonna work at all. That's like not gonna work at all. That's not gonna work. Okay. No, I was gonna make one of it. Is it time? Use your phone, see if you can hear me.
Oh, you want me to go on it?
Can you hear me? Yes. So she's checking Facebook Live, sorry. Yeah, we're good?
Hello and welcome. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone to be sure to use the WebEx app to give us feedback on all the sessions you attend this weekend. VMEA appreciates your feedback and suggestions. On behalf of the Virginia Music Educators Association, it is my pleasure to introduce our esteemed guest presenter, Dr. Cassandra Hibbard. Hailing from Camden, Michigan, Dr. Hibbard is a highly accomplished solo, chamber, and orchestral musician with music performance degrees from Western Michigan University and Michigan State University. Currently serving as the principal clarinetist of the Lynchburg Symphony Orchestra, she has been recognized by the International Clarinet Association for her outstanding solo performances. Dr. Hibbard's passion for music extends to teaching, and since 2014, she has been imparting her expertise as clarinet professor at Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. Please join me in welcoming the talented Dr. Cassandra Hibbard.
Hello, thank you so much for coming today. I'm so honored with all the choices that you have that you came to learn today about clarinet. Thank you so much. I am Dr. Cassandra Hibbard, and I'm the professor of clarinet at Liberty University. I've been there since 2014, and I love teaching about clarinet. How many of you love teaching about clarinet? Not very many of you. Okay, great. So you're in the right place. I want to ignite your love today because you're going to be so smart after this. But I just want to tell you right now, I will come to every one of your schools for free and help your clarinet players. I will come. I'll give you my email at the end. We're going to do this. We're going to solve all clarinet problems in the state of Virginia. Yes! Yes! Never again will you read on your form for your assessment, the clarinets are out of tune. Never! We will solve it today. Yes. And I want to start off by presenting you with a problem. I'm sure you've all heard this before. song of my people. But of course we want this sound. Now everywhere I go, I do that for a class. I make sure that they hear me do that. And then I say to them, what did I do differently? Because obviously those were two very distinctively different sounds, were they not? Okay. So I go around, I love doing this with middle school students because they're so excited to tell me what it was. They're really excited. The high schoolers are less excited. They're just like, I know, I sound that way, you're calling me out. But no, I walk around the room, and the most popular answers are, it was your face, it was your lips, you did something with your embouchure. One time I was at a school and the kids said, is this something about Amish? No. No, but something like that. No, so I walk around and I play it again, and I get it really close to that student. I go, watch my lips. Nothing changes. Can't be that. What could it be? Another popular answer, my breathing. It must be my breathing. And so I get up close to that student. I go, now watch, I'm only going to take one breath. And they see it's all the same breath. So what is it that makes such a drastically different sound? Probably some of you already know. It's my tongue. It's the tongue. It's the syllable of what you're supposed to say when you play clarinet, which is E. If you say ah, the pitch will change drastically. That's right. So this first one is ah. That's it. And then the second one is E. Class over. We solved the whole thing right there. But I mean, basically you say E all the time when you play clarinet, except when you do one thing. Do you know what that is? There's only one thing that you should say ah for. So when you go, yeah, that is not done with your fingers. That is done with the tongue. Watch. Wow. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Everyone else was overwhelmed. That's all it is. That's literally the whole concept of this. Now, not very many instruments have the syllable E for the choice for when you're playing. And so that's what causes a lot of problems with teaching this pedagogically with a group. Wouldn't you agree? I don't know. What's the syllable when you play a brass instrument? Da. Literally the syllable of death for clarinet. I can't remember what, I think it's for, like if you play like double reeds or something like that, it's do, or maybe it's for flute. I'm certainly not an expert in that by no means. But it's not E, is the basic concept. So clarinet has a lot of problems. But in order for you to get somewhere with this, first we have to understand the problem. Okay, so the early clarinets had this, a different set of problems actually. This is a it's a chalumeau right here. It's the earliest version of the clarinet. You can see it looks a lot different. It only has this one key right here. Not all of the chalumeaus have a key, but this one was used in the Baroque era. It looks very similar to a recorder, except that it has a reed. That's the main difference. Not a lot of music for the chalumeau that exists. It was a very limited instrument. And so they made them a little bit bigger. Here's an example of the next version of clarinet. Here's another example. You can see something really interesting about these. This one has a key, this one does not. There wasn't really a standardized concept for clarinet early on. And this one right here, you might notice that actually both of them, the mouthpieces are facing the keys, because it is believed, not confirmed, but believed, that people may have played with the mouthpiece the opposite direction in the early days of clarinet. Lots of problems exist. And one day they're like, oh, we shouldn't do that. Actually, this one, I don't know if you can see where you're seated, it almost has like a square mouthpiece, like a totally different concept than this one over here. So lots of problems. But the main issue that was existing was that intonation. In addition to not saying E, there was also a problem with pitch in that you couldn't adjust these clarinets. They couldn't move. They were all one piece. They didn't have an adjustment ability. And so what happened was composers like Haydn, Franz Joseph Haydn, his late works for orchestra actually don't have clarinet, because he just got tired of this issue. He just said, forget you guys, get out of here. And so clarinet players are not going to take this laying down. Okay, they're like, we've got to fix this problem. We got to be innovative. We got to come to a conclusion. So they did. They came up with an idea. They said, let's make it adjustable. And they added these rings. Here's the problem. When they added a ring in the middle, they moved this key here in the middle, the G sharp, C sharp key, this one. It was here where this ring was. They moved it up one. When they did that, the world changed. My world changed forever. It was one small step for man, one giant leap for clarinet kind, because it changed the overtonal series. Now, I'm sure all of you are familiar with the overtonal series. You have nightmares about it every now and then, right? But from your college days. But over here, I put it up here just to remind you. The overtonal series is a phenomenon of music, and every instrument in Western culture is based on the overtonal series. The basic concept is you take a string, and you pluck it, it makes a sound. You hold that string in half, it goes up an octave, which is what happens here between the first and second partial. When you take that half of a string and half it again, it goes up a fifth. So then you have an octave plus a fifth, aka a 12th. Aha, aha. When they moved this ring on clarinet, we lost every other partial of the overtonal series. Ah! This is the only instrument that I'm aware of in Western culture that does not have all the partials of the overtonal series, making it scientifically the most difficult. No arguments came, so I'm going to leave it there. All right, so yes, when you press the key that leads you into the next range of the clarinet, you actually go up from partial 1 to partial 3. Wow, that's a big jump for a kid in 6th grade to make, wouldn't you say? To go through the partials of the instrument. But this, we need to understand this problem, because sometimes I'll tell this to a classroom of kids and they'll be like, so what? Who cares? You know, what difference does this make? A huge difference. And that's why we need to come and talk together about clarinet technique. You're probably familiar with the ranges of the clarinet, okay? The chalumeau, the lowest range, and named for this early instrument, goes all the way to the B flat. And then here we have, on this very innocent looking bar line, a break. A break. You're familiar. Any middle school teachers in? You're, almost all of you. So you're familiar with this innocent looking bar line right here. You're familiar. Once we get into the range called the clarion, in Europe they call it the clarino. But the clarion range is the one that's just over that first break. The second break is here in the altissimo, but we continue in the altissimo to experience more partials of the overtonal series, because it goes 1, 3, 5, 7, God forbid 9. And I love that this Google image takes it up to G, but I expect my students to play beyond G, so maybe you've got some good high school players who can do that. But these are the ranges of the clarinet, and as we're understanding that when you move from here to here, you're moving quite, 2 partials. It's a lot. It's a lot of a problem to deal with. So there was an instrument invented to solve this problem. Do you know what instrument that is? The saxophone. The saxophone was invented because of this issue. Adolph Sax, he claims he was struck by lightning twice. Makes so much sense. He invented the saxophone to solve this terrible issue with clarinet. And it is a terrible issue, we face it all the time. But the technique of clarinet has to be slightly different as a result. There we go. So now that you understand what the problem is, let's get to the answer. The thing you're here for today, knowing all of this. So, I'm just going to say it outright. I'm going to solve this problem right now. Clarinet is the only instrument I'm aware of that has a technique with no compensation. 0. We do not compensate. Once you get your technique set, you don't do anything. The better you get at playing clarinet, it feels like you did nothing. Oh, now it's catching up with me. Oh, there we go. it feels like you're doing nothing because we're not going to compensate. Some of the instruments, in fact all of them, they'll say, in order to play a low note on saxophone, you have to do something slightly different than when you're playing in the regular range. I heard our flute professor said that you have to push your air in different directions based on how you're playing a flute. We can't do that stuff on clarinet. We can't do it. It has to be the same all the time. And that's the biggest issue, is a student, a young person, is going to see crossing the break or getting into the altissimo and they're like, that's a harder note, therefore I should do something more to make it happen. And that's what's causing the problem. We just want to do everything the same. But it has to be good the same. So I put up here this book. I'm sure you've seen this book, or versions of it for other instruments. But for clarinet, it is the Bible of clarinet. It was written by Keith Stein, and Keith Stein was a professor of clarinet through the 50s and 60s and a little bit of the 70s and 80s at, well, maybe not that long, but he was at Michigan State University, and he wrote this very concise, easy to understand book about why you shouldn't compensate, basically. And it doesn't say those exact words, but it has this overlying concept of this is how it's done, and that's how you should do it. Now, before that, pedagogues were saying things that were confusing. They were saying things like, well, you can just smile when you play clarinet, or you can just, these notes are harder than these notes, play them differently. The problem is we get such a weird sound on clarinet when people do that. Let me show you. So if we're going between the ranges and we go, it gets crazy. We can't do those things because of the type of resistance and the problems caused by the lack of the overtonal series partials. So they analyzed technique by saying this. They said, what are the hardest things to do on clarinet? Okay, crossing the break, articulating, playing really high, all the different things that are really hard. And they said, okay, what technique can we have for those things? Okay, can we also do that for everything else? And they found that not only can you, it makes everything better. And so this rule became in place. Don't change anything, just do it all the same, all the time. There you go, that's how it happened. So let's talk about what it is that you're gonna do the same. As I said before, if you say the syllable ah while you're playing clarinet, it sounds like death. It's just a whoa. I'll go to a school all the time and a teacher will say, my clarinets just play flat all the time and they're pushed in all the way, I don't know what to do. I'm like, it's okay. It's the syllable. People are like, that's all it is, that's it. It solves it that you say E, it changes everything. Your tongue, when you say E, your tongue goes in a position like this, as opposed to ah, being like this, and it just changes everything for you. The whole world becomes a lot easier. On the inside, you want to say the syllable, on the outside, you want to say the syllable ooh. Say it with me, everyone, ooh. Wow, that was beautiful. And the reason is because we want the corners to go down, the corners. But I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself. You need a visual aid to understand this. I have this incredible video that you can get on YouTube. You can look up clarinet MRI. It's incredible. This is a video of a person who is playing a clarinet made out of a garden hose in an MRI machine, so that you can see what the tongue does. Let's see if I can get it to play. Here you go. We may have to watch it a couple times. It goes by pretty fast.
Hee-haw, hee-haw, hee-haw. Oh, hee-haw.
Spent the majority of my adult life talking about the tongue and the neck. So I don't know if that's the case with him. Oop. It wants you to know. See, it just wants you to watch this over and over again. It's an important video. So you could see the extreme difference of the E and the ah, and then the movement of the soft palate here, and the area of the neck, how the tongue actually goes pretty far down your neck, and you can make a lot of difference in the sound. And so we need to have control over those things. Now, I just want to clarify for you, when I say that we don't use compensation, I want you to think about sound in sense of two ways in clarinet. There is the creation of just sound, like making sound on clarinet. And then separate from this issue is the creation of creative sound. You know, making different colors and things like that. I'm not going to talk about that today. In fact, I don't even like to talk about it a lot in collegiate level lessons until I'm absolutely certain these things are set, okay? Because it's just too confusing if I say to somebody, don't move your tongue, but it's okay if you move the back part of your tongue back here. It just really wants you to see this. See, it's an important video. Ray Wheeler playing clarinet in an MRI. But anyways, that's the situation. We're going to be talking about the creation of sound primarily. Okay, so we've got the concept. We're going to say E all the time. On the outside, we're going to say oo. This is a concept that was changed in the art of clarinet playing pretty drastically. There are all these great pictures of Keith Stein going, your head has to be like this. Now, he has every version of his head. He's explaining which way. He took pictures of himself in different positions. It's so cute. But it's my favorite part in the book. But it was explaining that you need to say ooh because a lot of people have been saying the corners need to go back. Now, why would that be a bad idea? It's so obvious to me. Here's the thing. If your corners go to the sides, your lip actually pushes against the reed more and could cause a student I'm just going to have to put this down, okay? It could cause a student to actually press against the reed hard when they try to cross into a new partial on the reed. And so if you're pressing against the reed and it tries to access a different partial and you've accidentally made the reed shorter by pressing too hard, it will send the overtonal series up higher. It'll have the same effect but in a smaller reed, sending the notes way high, aka squeaking. That's right. That's why it happens. So we want to think about the corners going down and assisting the chin in being flat. Because that's what we tell all the clarinet players, make your chin flat. So all those 6th graders are going. I mean, it's really hard to make your chin flat, but if you use the corners of your mouth to go down, it does something really interesting in the body's way of thinking. You know, our body likes to do things in pairs. I didn't even touch it. That's strange, but we're going to leave that here. The body likes to do things in pairs. You put your arm down, a group of muscles put it down, pick it up, a different group of muscles pick it up. And that's just the way the body likes to function. And you may have heard the old saying, it takes more muscles to frown than to smile. Well, I am by no means a person in shape, but my face is ripped. I mean, I've got him here, the facial muscles here. You seeing that? It's amazing. It makes me want to be like, posing for you today. But that's the kind of thing you should do. When I was in high school, I remember driving down the road in the car and I had like a straw and I was just holding it going, just practicing to be great at my embouchure for this very reason. So making the corners go down and avoiding words like make your embouchure tight, make your embouchure, is it for real? Make your embouchure firm. You don't want to say that. We want, as the corners go down, it actually makes the lip kind of cushy. So it doesn't press against the reed. We're going down. And then finally, we have to talk about air. Air is also constant. We don't need different air for different parts of the range of the clarinet. And also, I hate to say this, but the resistance on clarinet actually causes what I'm going to say is a ratio of 3-to-1 breathing. For example, on the flute, it's what it feels like is what it sounds like. You play, what happens is what comes out. But if you are playing clarinet, you actually have to do like 3-to-1. So on clarinet and flute, if you're playing in your body like, happy birthday to you. It comes out, happy birthday to you. It comes out like that. But on clarinet, if you do that, it would come out, happy birthday to you. So you actually have to be like, I'm going to need an assistant just to turn that off, I'm telling you. But on clarinet, you have to be more like, happy birthday to you! And then it comes out, happy birthday to you. It's a terrible thing. This is why I believe all clarinet players are slightly obnoxious. It's for that reason. It's that 3-to-1. When they're doing it correctly, you'll know. All right, I'm going to leave this slide, hopefully. Leave this slide. I'm trying as hard as I can. Technical difficulties. Now, let's talk about how this applies to you. Since most of you are middle school teachers, you've probably seen this page before. The Essential Elements book. This is the one I had, so it probably looks different. I had to find it in my files for you. I took a picture of this page because this is the page where we start to look at crossing the break. Woo! We had to get all the way to page 18, number 90. Whew. Okay, so here's the problem. I'm not gonna lie to you. When you're playing in the chalumeau, you can get away with all kinds of stuff. You can play all sorts of not great techniques. And then on page 18, if you're playing with those bad techniques, it all gets exposed because you won't be able to play that note. Am I right? What are we going to say? Percentage of kids that can do this the first time, this jump right here. Percentage, 50%? 50% of kids? That's ridiculous. I mean, how long does it take to get to number 90 in this book? Is it a whole semester? Yeah? That means that they could have played with bad technique for an entire semester. This is the stuff of my nightmares, people. This is what happens to me when they get to college. It's not your fault, though. But I'm going to tell you today how you can do it better. Because when we add this key, they can't play it. Because what they learn accidentally is, okay, so this one is so different from this one that I should do something different. Oh, no. Oh, this is what my nightmares look like, people. So really what we should do is learn it backwards. We should say, okay, this is the harder of the two. Therefore, we need to establish how to do this note and then do the other one exactly the same. Because that's how you don't compensate. See? It's a tricky thing. But what'll end up happening, like if we look at here at number 91, jumping up and down. Such a creative name. We'll end up hearing this sound. Or, yeah, that's if they compensate. If they don't compensate, it'll be the song of my people. There it is. I mean, obviously you want it to be all the same. So to play a good E, we'd have to. So then we do all of the other notes the same as that. It's like magic. It's like magic, people. I have to tell this to college students, just so you know, all the time. Because they learned it. They learned all these bad habits when they were little kids. They can't help it. So we want to focus the students, young students especially, on consistency, not compensation. Because the student's going to say to you, I can't play that note, what should I do? And so you're going to have to say things like, you need more air. Or maybe your embouchure is not right. Let's turn it around. Let's turn around the way we say this. Let's say, it must be that you weren't doing it correct in the first place. You see what I mean? We'll change the way that they think about it. We'll go, this means you weren't doing technique correctly. So let's revisit it. Are you saying E? Are you saying ooh? And so that's what I'm saying here. If they find a struggle, they should be, even though they're learning new notes, there's no new technique. This is just the refinement of that technique. We go, see, you weren't doing it. That's why it's not working. Unfortunately, because the clarinet doesn't have compensation, basically I just like to present a problem and then I go, can't do it. There you go. You weren't doing the right thing. So if they find that they struggle with new notes, you can revisit their technique, or sometimes it could be an equipment issue. So I'm going to do a little sidebar and talk to you about the two most common equipment issues that I see young students have. It could be anything, but you may not know this. The reed on the mouthpiece, it does need to be just equal with the tip. I've seen all versions of this, people say this. I just want to clarify this. I promise you, for the International Clarinet Association, I didn't invent this. It needs to be at the tip. and equal everywhere. So you can check a student's read to make sure it's equal on both sides here, equal on both sides here. We don't want it to do one of these where it's like, you know, all the different versions of it. We don't want it too low, we don't want it too high, right at the tip. And remember on clarinet, we do not tongue the tip of the tongue to the tip of the reed. No, no, no. We don't do this. It's right below the tip, right here. So don't, some confusion. That's how you do it on double reeds. The tip of the tongue to the tip of the reed. You can't do that stuff. Can you imagine? Here's the tip. How would I get my tongue there? That doesn't even make sense. But yes, so that's the most common issue that I see. Or maybe their ligature isn't on all the way. It needs to be on all the way, you know. Then the second biggest issue I see people have when they're practicing crossing the break is actually the bridge key right here. So the bridge key, it can paralyze the instrument if it's not communicating correctly. You can check a person's clarinet by, I'm gonna have to get some fancy footwork here, by pressing down on this key, this one right here, and you'll notice that it makes this one go down here. If you press this one down and then the top one doesn't go down all the way, like if it has any movement here, they won't be able to cross the break easily. They'll be able to do it, just not as easily. And you can adjust it by moving the bridge key. This is why we don't want to suggest that people tune their instrument here. The bridge key needs to be perfect. So I'll show you. So you can test it by putting your finger here and here on each of the top keys and moving these ones. Okay, so let's say that I have it off, and now I can move it. So it's gonna go. That's not gonna work. You might be able to play some notes, but when you try other things, it's just not gonna work. That's the thing. If you have somebody who's about to audition for Allstate or anything like that, those are the things that I really want to check on people's clarinet. Is the reed on correctly? Is the one-in-one in perfect alignment with the bridge key? Those are important things. That's for free, everybody. That was, you know, that's good stuff, believe me. Now, let me talk to you about as they get older. How am I doing on time? Yeah? Okay, I want to make sure I spend time with this. You know, because if you're a high school teacher, you've probably seen more music like this in your life. So I'm going to talk about this one first. Look at this line here in Yorkshire Ballad. As we're going up to this C, even though the majority of these notes are in the clarion range, clarinet players like to help. They like to help these things. And so a tremendous amount of clarinet etudes actually begin with an upward motion, like rose number 1 in the 32, it just goes up. Because it's trying to expose that people, when they're playing lyrical, they like to drop the tongue. And it's just because they're trying to help. They're trying to help, that's all. So it ends up sounding crazy, like this. You've heard that before? It happens. It didn't start off that way. So they have to actually fight to not change the technique. You have to be like, I will not change. And there's another spot. As they cross the break down to that A there in bar 21, that's another place that people might want to help. And so could you talk to them about this? How do you talk to the students? Okay, this is so easy. Because I know the first thing would say, oh, these notes aren't in tune right here. You need to tune those notes. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. It'll happen. What you want to do is say, okay, the hardest note, it's not hard, but the hardest note in this phrase would be the C, right? That's the one. Okay, so then you say to your clarinet section, play that C, everybody, play it. Okay, make sure you're saying E, make sure you're saying ooh, play that C. Okay, good. Memorize what that feels like. Now play all the notes exactly the same as that C. And you know what happens to you? You never get the clarinets written on your form. They were out of tune. Never happens ever again. Because you taught them like that. Woo! I know you can do it. I believe in you. But that's how you do it. You just have to focus them on not compensating. And you know, I'd like to say that it's hard to do. It's really not. I go into a school and I just go, say E, everybody, and then I'm just like, okay, well, we're done. It's so simple. But so you have to then hold them accountable, because we'll be hearing that phrase. And unfortunately, let's say that another section also has the same problem. Like if it's, I can't remember what the orchestration is here, but it could be with other woodwind instruments. If that's the case, you may have to speak differently to your clarinet section than you would to your flute section, than your double reeds, than your saxophones, right? But feel free to tell the saxophones to say E. Feel free. It's the same concept. Now, let's look over here at Raiders of the Lost Ark. Raiders March. This is something people play all the time. I've played it in band and orchestra and everything. This is a band version. I wanted to show this to you because of the melody, which is right here. Da, 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 da. You all know that, right? Okay. Movie music provides a problem for the clarinet section because most of it is with the brass. And the brass are naturally compensating, like the human voice. If I was singing that, da 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 dum da da dum da da, you know, my mouth wants to do that, right? I don't know a lot about brass playing, but it sounds like there's compensation. And the clarinets want to do it too. It will not have the same result. It will not have the same result. And it'll have a similar thing here. So you'll have to talk to them again about, we have to do something different to get this result. I know, everyone. This is what I do every day. Okay, I know this is complicated. Literally, this is what I have to apologize to college students all the time. It'd be like me saying to you, in order to pick up this clicker, you have to grab it here. That's what it feels like to play clarinet, you know? So I wanted to tell you something about how I dealt with this as a college student, because I wanted to figure it out. And I really wanted my clarinet playing to sound more like singing. It's so hard to do that. And so I thought, I'll just listen to people singing. And I noticed that a lot of people who are singing in that mezzo area, maybe the music theater area of voice, they have a break in a similar spot on the staff as clarinet does. And I was like, I want to figure out how they handle this. So I talked to singers, and I found out that they are doing compensation, so I tried all of that. It didn't work. It did not get the result I was looking for. So I gave myself a control. I like the musical Cinderella by Rodgers and Hammerstein. Do you know that one? So many of you do. It must be because you were music majors, eh? You still are. You're still music majors. So I was playing the song 10 minutes ago in college all the time. And go. Seems pretty easy, right? Literally inside of my body, it's like, the air is coming out of me so violent, it's so much, and it comes out, la 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 la. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen. It took a while to come to that conclusion, and I was just like, how is that the case? But it is. That's the way it is on clarinet. So if you want great clarinet players, you have to tell everybody else to do it a certain way. You guys, 3-to-1. That's how you do it. But also, I realized the same thing. Like, as I went up in that phrase, I noticed that if I tried to phrase it the way the singer would do it, by opening up a little bit as she got higher, did not get the result I was looking for. So I was like, okay. So I just play lots of air and do nothing. I can do that. Yeah. And it works. I was like, this could be a career. It worked out. Okay. But the thing that I know you're all looking at over here is Leroy Anderson's The Irish Washerwoman. How many of you have had your band play this? 0 people. I see why. It's okay. I mean, how many of you, if you handed out to your clarinets, they would cry? They'd be the very first. They'd be like, no! Well, there's a lot of reasons why. Articulation is one of the hardest things to do on clarinet because just like this slide over here exposes bad technique, this one exposes the bad technique for that situation. Articulation exposes it as they get older, and especially in college. It's the #1 thing that people can't do, articulation. Why? Okay. The syllable for staccato, or really short tonguing on clarinet, would be T, because it's T, because we're saying E, T. So you have to really get that snap in there to make it sound staccato. But if there's only that tiny little space of the reed, because we want it as close to the reed as possible, you know, that tiny little space, the air that goes in, it has to be ferocious to get that reed to vibrate and get a staccato. So if they don't have good air, they're not going to be able to do this stuff. So what does a student do in that case? They're like, okay, this is hard. I should do something different. And then they start doing weird tonguing by saying, that's what happens. They start saying, like here in the middle after A. Usually this part's okay with kids. But it can get weird as they go along. You've heard that before? Imagine what it would sound like at B that way. Don't worry, I'll do it for you. People just losing their mind. They could just focus on breathing from the abdomen. I'm sure you've all taught your students how to breathe beautifully. Oh, whatever. That's the idea. You see the difference? They just stay calm. E. Ooh. 3-1. There you go. It doesn't have to be anything to be worried about in that sense. Does that make sense to you? There you go. That's the secret to doing it. I know, isn't it incredible? You thought there was going to be more than that, didn't you? No, it goes all the way back to what's wrong with the clarinet and how to fix it in these circumstances. I think I'm going to open it up for questions now. Is that okay? I see I've got a little bit of time for that. Are there any? Yes, sir.
5 minutes.
Oh, 5 minutes. He gave me the hand here. Okay. Does anybody have a question for me today? I really love questions. Yes?
Reed selection, beginners, of course.
For my next lecture, I'll be talking about reeds. Reed selection for beginners?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to give you the easy spiel, because you can imagine that I'm pretty obsessive about this. But when it comes to reeds, they're kind of like shoes. They need to fit a student's lung capacity. You put on shoes that are too tight, people will be like, ow, ow, ow. You put on ones that are too big that look like Ronald McDonald walking around. But how many times have I gone to a school and every single student has the exact same brand and size of reed? Every time. That can't be possible. That's impossible. How could every single student need the same size reed? I mean, I guess it's not impossible. So what does that mean? You need people like me to sit down and go, okay, now try this one, let me see. And also, when I've taught since 2014 at Liberty. I also taught little kids for 3 years at the Community Music School of Michigan State University. And I had a studio of like 16 people, and I had little kids. And I would resize them 3 times a year because their bodies change. I wanted them to be successful. And as they get better, they need a harder reed. So I guess when we get them started, we need them to do like orange box Ricos and then just move their way up. There's all kinds of choices. But sometimes a student will say to me, I'm playing on a size 3. And I'll go, okay, that means nothing. What brand? So a size 3 orange box Rico is not the same size as a blue box Van Doren, okay? Those are worlds apart. 3 is not 3. All reeds are not equal when it comes to this. So this is the conundrum of playing. It really is a problem. So we need them to sit down and try different reeds and find the one that fits their body personally. Is there a more specific question?
Well, it's the balance of, okay, of course, time, budget, and, I literally can't sit there with every kid and say, okay, let's try this. Like, I can always get the orange box Ricos, and, of course, I hope they try to solve as many problems as I can have, but then as they get advanced, and I'm like, okay, I need you to produce this note and this sound, it's not happening.
Lucky thing for you is I will sit down with every one of your students. I will sit down with all of your students and help them find the right reed. It makes me happy. Look at this. I will come to your school. Here, let me help you out here. I will come and I will help your students. I believe that I want everybody, what I want to do for you, let me be clear. I feel like a lot of students get discouraged when they move from middle school to high school after they play a little bit of high school level music if they didn't develop their technique, and then you lose people in band. I can solve this for you. We can make people understand technique better, and then they'll love being in band. They'll feel that success, all because we put their bridge key on correctly. All because we got the right size reed for them. All because they had the time to sit down and do those sorts of things. I want to help kids do that. It's up to people like me to assist you. All of my colleagues at Liberty will come and help you. I promise you, they'll be very excited. But it's my duty in life. We want to help. I can't exist without you, and you can't teach about reeds without me. Let's do it together, that sort of thing. I wish I could give a more definitive answer because it is so personal. It'd be like saying, what's the best size of trumpet mouthpiece? It's so personal with that. I mean, it's all about the sound. I have my personal favorite reeds to play on, but if somebody comes in my studio and they play something and they sound good, hard for me to argue with that because I want sound. That's what I want to hear, good sound. I love more questions. Yes?
So, I've heard a lot of different opinions on angle of the clarinet while playing. What do you say?
Well, it comes back to sound, doesn't it? When I get people in my office, it has a lot to do with the way their face is shaped. If people have a larger lip or if they have a smaller bottom lip, sometimes it has to do with how long their tongue is. I do ask everyone to show me how long their tongue is. It's not my favorite thing, but I have to know these things when I'm doing it. But here's something that you can do. Just have a person play one note and just go like this. Till we find the right spot. Now we want a vector on clarinet to be sideways ideally, so that the reed can have as much surface area to vibrate as humanly possible. But again, I will give the caveat that if somebody sounds better with a slightly different vector, I'm all for it. So that's something they can even do for themselves, but if you have somebody who's having a really weird sound, you can just solve it that way. Because we want good sound, right? There you go, you can try that with people. Did that answer it?
Yes, I just see a lot of high school clarinet players playing it like a soprano saxophone.
No.
Yeah.
I'll just say definitively that one usually doesn't sound good.
Yeah, it's
Does that make sense?
Right.
No. But saxophone, that is one of the main differences is we want a vector like this on clarinet, but you actually want your saxophone players to go straight in. So if you have clarinet players that try to play saxophone, they can't figure out how to get the mouthpiece just right, and they're confused. I'm like, no, go straight in. So that it goes both ways. I saw a hand in the back. Yes?
What are your thoughts on anchoring the right hand down at a middle school level, in preparation to go over the break, and then at a more advanced level, are there any more specific finger combinations that you would recommend on specific throat tones?
So you can do it during the throat tones. F is the cutoff point. You can't do it anymore in F. But yes, it's wonderful. If you could teach people to do that before they get to me, I'll cry. I'll cry with happiness. We call those fingerings resonance fingerings in the throat tones because they actually make you play more in tune. And everyone's clarinet is slightly different, so any different combinations of fingers can do it. But usually if you can just teach them to put down this hand in preparation while they're playing open G, it makes it easier. I don't know that you want to teach them that on day one. It's up to you, however you want to do it, but eventually if they can put down their right hand, they'll be able to anchor better. It's true. So I love that. I love that. I mean, 90% of the time you sound better if you're playing a long note and it's a throat tone if you put down some resonance fingers. I saw a few clarinet players in the room. Do we concur? We concur, okay. Do we have time for one more question? One more? Anybody? I love questions. Yes?
So 3-to-1 air, you need a lot of air support with the clarinet. How would you approach students that are overplaying or playing too loud and it's kind of squawking sound?
I'm so glad that you said this because I forgot to mention that one of the other places that people really struggle with this particular issue is when you're in marching band. The students, when they get into marching band, we just keep hearing, play louder, play louder, play louder. You can't deny that when I played at the beginning for you, that when I was saying, the sound was louder, yes? Most of the time when they're overplaying, it is a tongue issue. Because once you get your tongue in that E position, it's kind of like changing the angle of a water hose. If you turn on a hose and water just comes out, and then if you put your finger over half of it, you can spray people. It's kind of like that. The sound goes from a to like that kind of thing. And so usually at that point, if the reed is the correct resistance and they're using the right amount of air, it should be able to complement each other to the place where it doesn't result in overplaying. But if they drop their tongue, it is definitely going to sound that way. But it may be a person-specific issue. I won't deny that. You never know with people. But it's usually something to do with that. How am I doing? I am so grateful to be here with all of you today. Thank you so much. Take me up on my offer, people. I love visiting schools and helping people play better. I'll bring Caitlin with me. She goes to OU. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hibbard, for that incredible session and delivering that knowledge with such great energy. On behalf of VMEA, I'd like to present you with this certificate as a token of our gratitude for your service. Thank you so much. Thank you.